Hello guys, I hope you're all keeping well. So today you join me for the first episode of my new series, Track from Scratch. So you'll see all my thought processes from the start of a track all the way to the end of the arrangement and all the creative ideas involved. So let's hop into Ableton and see what we can make.
Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Okay, so what I do when I start a track from scratch is sometimes I'll have an idea in my head, which then I will go out and execute. Sometimes I'll have a reference track, which I'll load into Ableton and then reference and build ideas around from there. Or it might be like today, I just go off what I'm feeling and what sort of vibe I want to create, find a few different ideas just to sort of get some inspiration from, and then go from there. So for today's idea, I'm just going to vibe out. I've gone from sort of what I'm feeling, a bit more chilled out today. I don't want to make anything too intense, so I want to make something a bit deep, a bit rolling, but still within sort of my style and sound. So I found two tracks to sort of reference and bounce ideas around. So the first one is this track by Roscoe and so yeah, that's what I'm sort of feeling, and then sort of bring it a bit more modern, if you want to call it, more within my sound. I found this ID from a Latimer and Wheat set.
Make love to the music.
So yeah, that's sort of what I've gone for, and what I'm going to do now, and what I always do before I start producing anything, is I start collecting samples within that sort of style and vibe I've gone for. So I've already done about 10-15 minutes of it. I'll probably do some more off camera, but you'll sort of see I'm just picking loops and sounds that are within my sort of style and that I can chop up and use. We'll also be creating some of our own sounds. We're using VSTs. We'll be using loops as a whole. Everything. We will go through all my creative processes, and I will try my best to not get too in the zone and talk you through my thought processes while doing it. It's all very well seeing me do it, but sometimes it's nice to know why I'm doing certain things. So I'm going to turn off the camera and I'm going to find a few more samples, and then we will dive into it. Okay, so now you can see I have collected a bunch of different samples. I've put them all in different columns, channels, whatever you want to call it, because some of them are drums, some are vocals, some are sound effects, turn that kick off, synths, perks, and might use that within the bass channel. So what I'll do now is I will usually start with a full loop, maybe chop it up, maybe not, just to get a groove rolling. There was a few different nice ones. In fact, I believe it was a synth. Can't remember which one it was now. Yeah. So I'm just going to edit that one. So if we go over to this little part here, and then you can see envelopes gain. Now this is changing the gain of the clip itself. So if I bring it all the way down, nothing's going to play. So now what I can use this for is to cut out the parts that I don't want. So I don't want that clap because I don't like the sound of it, and I'm going to put my own in. And I don't like this hit here, so I want it to go. You'll probably hear me do this a lot and sound like a psychopath, making weird noises, but that is the way I work. So let's get rid of that clap. And we don't want that. So we then have what I want. So I'm just going to keep that as literally a 2-bar roll-in loop. We are going to quantize it with Command A to hit all the notes, and then Command U to drag it into place. You're going to put it on its own channel. Just play it with a bit of low end. So it's got quite a nice little bop to it. So we are just going to EQ the low end, not that there's much in it anyway. We are going to put a bit of reverb on it, which I just need to do. So it might be nice with a bit of echo on the actual channel to make it sound a bit more washed out. So let's get A was an echo. Put it on notes, bring the dry wet right all the way down. That's got quite a nice little bop to it. Sidechain. So I'm putting the sidechain after the echo and the reverb because I want that echo and reverb to be sidechained as well. It's important to remember the chain of the plugins you are using or effects does make a difference. And I'm going to make it quite wide. So that sounds nice. It's just like a little rhythm to get me going. Something important to note is there's quite a bit of mud and stuff in there. So I could go at it with a FabFilter EQ and get it sounding nice. But that is taking away the point of this session. This point of this session is to be as creative as possible and get ideas down as quickly as possible to then have a track from start to finish. I can then worry about what it sounds like, mix downs, so on and so forth later. If I decide that it doesn't sound right, what I can then do is look for a better quality sample or make one myself. But if I was to do that now and start fiddling around, I could do that for hours, and then 2 hours have passed by and all I've got is a kick and a little synth rhythm, and I've got to go work or I can't be bothered to finish a track. So just remember to keep rolling and like keep going as quickly as possible. But I really like that. So I think there was another little synth hit. Sounds quite good there. So let's just change the envelope again, get rid of that clap. May not want it happening all the time. loop it. So I quite like that. EQ, I did just say about mix downs and stuff like that, but it can get really messy when you're not cutting out low end and stuff like that, and it can just make it sound bad. For the sake of a couple seconds, just get an EQ, cut it on 100 and worry about it later on. I want to bring some of the harmonics up in it as well, so let's just whack a saturator on it, drive it quite hard. Sidechain again. So that's more of like a synth sound effect. I heard that and I could like hear it in the breakdowns. That's another good point to mention. When I'm looking for my samples, I'm not just thinking about the groove, I'm thinking about what's going to carry it through the track. So different like risers, down risers, sound effects, stuff in the breaks, stuff like ear candy stuff that just happens every now and again. I'm looking for all of that when I'm hunting through the samples. So yeah, I'm feeling that. So let's have a look through some of these percussions, start laying a little percussion groove down, get a hi-hat groove in, and go from there. I like the beginning part of that, but it's quite cool. Like if I put that quiet in the mix, that probably sound quite nice. I'm just gonna do it. Screw it. It's more like a little textural sound now. I have got textures somewhere. I don't know where I put them though. Maybe in that one. I can't remember. So that's nice. That's got loads of nice sounds in it, but I don't like the rhythm, so we'll come back to that. I really like that clave, like that little clav or whatever you want to call it. I think I'm going to make something like that, use that loop as like a reference. I like that, it's pretty cool. So again, I'm just going to quantize it and I'm going to put a groove on it. I always start with a high swing and then use the timing to then get the swing how I want it to sound. So I wouldn't usually swing any of my tracks more than this preset here, swing the 65. It's quite heavily swung as it is. But I can hear like how loose that is. Now then I can use this timing to then change how much that is actually using the swing preset. So if it's on 0, it's not using it at all. Start bringing it up. Now that's back to swing 65. So I'm probably just going to bring it down to about 40. But if I change my mind later on, this is the reason why I do this instead of actually using maybe like a swing 55 preset. Is because if I change my mind, there's one global parameter that changes all the swing. Whereas if I was to put it on 55 and then I wanted it swung more, I would then have to Command A everything and then change it from the groove pool there. It's as broad as it's long though, but personally, I can get a more dialed in swing pattern using a higher swing and then dialing in the timing. You notice how sometimes I'll just sort of zone out because I'm forward thinking. I sort of forward think and then backwards plan. So I'm already thinking, are those two synths going to work with like that rolling, that's still quite driving and dirty bass line I want? Or is that going to be too mellow? But I can hear it in my head, so we're just going to roll with it. Okay, so what I'm going to start doing now is chopping up these loops and affecting them and making my own, because I'm happy with that little rhythm I've got. So let's just tidy up the project as well. Perks. Let me find those textures. Cool, so there was the textures that I was on about. So let's just do that. I do that quite early on and just sit it quiet in the mix just so I can get a feel for sort of the atmosphere I'm going for. So I've just got this straight up vinyl crackle. Where's that top loop? Sounds like it's coming together even with just like a top loop playing. It's a good reference point just to see if like what I'm doing works. But that was accidental. So we're going to use this one as well. It's quite in your face, that one, but we will get it to sound better with some EQing. And then what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to try and create some sort of modulation. So I'm going to start with an Ableton one, just because everyone has access to this. It might not work because the loop's very rolling, it's very repetitive, so I might not be able to get the stutters I want. It's alright, but we might be able to get better with an actual plugin. So let's use Effectrix. So I'm going to put a random little stutter there. Maybe change preset. It's a bit too long. So maybe try that instead. That's better. Maybe try a little. Put a phase on all of it, maybe. Kind of cool. Maybe a bit too in your face for. try reverse. Just go to a stretch. It's got some sort of modulation in it. It's very subtle anyway, no one's going to be paying attention to this, so it's not worth the time fanning around on it too much. But it does make a difference in the track, so even just at the moment, if I turn this off, can do with being a bit quieter. You'll only hear that if you're listening on like AirPods, monitors or headphones. But that group of a whole is making a bit of a difference. Right, so I only want to change the volume on one of them. So that's something nice. Which one's got? So I'm going to put a sidechain on this because it's very repetitive. And a cool little trick I do as well is I get another sidechain plugin, kickstart, one knob pumper, whatever you want, and then you can change where it's reducing the volume. So here we got the quarter note, so that's why it works as a sidechain for a kick. But I can also put it on eighth, which is where the hi-hat lands. So now it's dipping out the way where that hi-hat will land. So I'm opening up some more space for developing my own hi-hats, layering, top loops, so on and so forth. So if I just turn both of them off, it's a bit more like constant. And that's now just dipping it back in the mix and is doing what I want it to do, which is just subtle ear candy that is helping develop an atmosphere within the track. And I don't know if I'm going to put an eighth note on that one, but I'm definitely going to put a sidechain on it anyways. Textures. And there you go, that is the first episode done of my Track From Scratch series. Catch me on Friday where we will be going over everything percussion and how I program MIDI, resample, use loops and so on and so forth. So I will see you on Friday.